Okay, so this is gonna be my final exam submission. It's gonna be kind of like a narrative, kind of like storytelling kind of thing. I was gonna try to put it like on my phone so I could look at it, but it's on my laptop. So yeah, my phone's not working for me right now. So let's get started. You know the story: a badge, a gun, a crooked cop. He breaks the rules, but only to protect the innocent. Justice served just like that, usually, right? You've seen this 100 times, maybe even 1,000. But this is not a cop show. This is real life. Because in real life, justice isn't that clean cut. In real life, people don't always protect. Police don't always protect. And the bad guys aren't always the criminals. Like, that's so true. Like, take the 7-5, a documentary, not fiction. Michael Dowd, who's an NYPD cop, he spent years robbing drug dealers, trafficking cocaine, and just shaking down neighborhoods in Brooklyn, right? And when he talks about it, he laughs. Like, he's pretty nonchalant about it. Like, he really could care less. But he, not because it's funny, but because he knows he got away with it for a very long time, which is like absolutely insane. That's not a story you'll see on Blue Bloods. And it's not just one bad cop, it's an entire system that lets cops police themselves. A system where the camera doesn't roll until someone's already dead. And some people saw it decades ago with N.W.A.'s F the Police. You know, it wasn't which was released in 1988. It's not a protest song or a warning. It was more of a declaration, you know, a reality check, like on what police were doing and like how this is affecting the black community. And it's like they say F the police coming straight from the underground. That wasn't shock value. That was lived experience. Like they're living through this and they're deciding to speak up about it. A refusal to play along with the fiction and like the storytelling that police keep communities safe. And they do sometimes, but not always, okay? And N.W.A., that song, that they didn't get radio play. They got FBI letters because they were going against the system. Because when you challenge cops, when you challenge cops and the myth of the noble officer, you don't just disrupt a story. You threaten an entire industry, the system, and a whole set of beliefs that people cling to, you know? And you want to see where that story ends? We can also look at the Judge Dredd comics, which is a comic book where police don't just enforce the law, they literally are the law. They embody it, and they majority of them care about it and literally stick like they law. No jury, no trial, just judgment. That's literally what they do. Like they don't. This ain't a democracy. This ain't no criminal. This ain't no system type thing. It was meant to be a warning, but it doesn't feel that far off anymore. When police carry weapons, when they surveil communities, when protect and serve becomes punish and patrol, excuse me, that becomes a problem. It gives like if you compare it to Judge Dredd, it's like are we already living in Mega City 1 where the police are just judging and not protecting and not serving their communities? That's what it gives. But we can also, what if we change this narrative? What if we change this channel? What if the cop isn't the hero? Because, you know, you always see like those tropes of hero cops in shows and other forms of media. You see that. What if it was the community who's the hero, you know? What if, and I completely rally behind this, what if instead of, because I've seen a lot of where people get, like say somebody's having a mental health crisis, but they send a cop to handle that. When in reality, that person needs a mental health specialist. You know? What if schools had therapists instead of school resource officers, you know? Like, we need them, but you're getting the cops to do a job that's not theirs. There are people who are specifically designed for these jobs. And I feel like that's one of the big problems. We send a cop to do somebody else's job all the time. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. There's like a gnat right here. What if we spent more on like actually helping the community instead of just sticking officers where you think they should be type thing, you know? And these aren't fantasies, you know, there's stuff like this that's been done in the world, like sending medics and crisis workers instead of cops in certain situations. trying to prevent harm before it starts, so it's not becoming that type of thing. But the truth is like in the media, they push out the other stories. They don't push out those stories. They push out the stories where the cops there and things like that. And we've just been looking at the wrong stories. Like that's, ooh, I'm sorry. That is what, that's what's there. And maybe the question is, what do we do about the police on TV? Like maybe, like that's the question that's kind of being asked. What do we do about police on the TV? That's not the question we should be asking. It's how do we want to portray police on TV? Do we want to keep seeing them as the people who aren't doing it, who are just the law, and they're enforcing the law, they're not necessarily serving their communities anymore? Or do we want to see where they're enforcing the law while serving their communities, while having humanity, having compassion, having empathy? Like, is that what we want to see? Because the stories we tell shape what we believe, and what we believe shapes what we build. This is not a cop show. This is a rewrite of what it could be. Thank you.